Hello and welcome to Split Informed and Split Smart. I'm your host, Carl Roberts, and absolutely thrilled to be here for my first show on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are developing this show to help all couples, amicable or hostile, to more easily reach positive, equitable, and peaceful agreements in their divorce. It's my belief that most everyone in their right mind wants peace, love, and equality in their post-divorce life. Even if they aren't in their right mind, even if they aren't in the right mind, and even if they don't know it, they still want peace, love, and equality. I founded SplitSmart so that no one, regardless of emotional state or personality disorder, typically think about them being bad actors, would be able to deny peace, love, and equality from the other or their children. We designed SplitSmart and this show to help all couples, amicable and hostile, to more easily reach those agreements. At the end of the day, I believe that the single difference between a good and ugly divorce is simply the presence of a bad actor. Bad actors can be one or both, man or woman, lawyer or litigant. And typically they are most often they're good people who have just gotten tripped up by their emotions, by the system, by bad advice from friends and or lawyers. But more often than not, they get tripped up by personality disorders of being a narcissist and or a borderline. With that said, I am super excited to have my first guest, Susan Pava. Susan is a psychotherapist in White Plains, New York, who specializes in divorce cases involving narcissists and borderlines. Hello, Susan, and thank you so much for being my first guest.
Thank you, Carl, for having me. I'm so honored to be your first guest.
Oh, this is exciting for the both of us.
Yes, we've come a long way.
It has, and give our audience a little bit more background on you.
Okay. I did not start my career as a psychotherapist. I was an advertising producer for many, many years and in marketing. I had the misfortune of marrying a malignant narcissist, which is the worst of the worst kind of narcissist. And I went through a scorched earth, very litigious 3-year divorce that cost an enormous amount of money, took an enormous emotional toll on everybody involved. And I decided if I got through it alive, I was going to go back to school and become a psychotherapist so I could help others in this process. And I did.
Well, that's, you and I have some of that in common. You divorced a malignant narcissist, I divorced a borderline.
Right.
And, while I may have more colorful terms for both of those,
Right.
not for polite for a public broadcast, but, give us a little bit more, understanding of both the clinical yet practical understanding of both narcissists and borderlines.
Okay, well, the first thing I want to say is since we had a malignant narcissist as a president for 4 years, everybody can see right before them the behavior. Donald Trump is a malignant narcissist. So that being said, narcissism and borderline are two types of personality disorders. And the DSM-5, which is the diagnostic standard, says that, persons with personality disorders, they tend to be dramatic, they tend to be emotional, attention-seeking, their moods are labile, they're often shallow, and they usually have intense interpersonal conflicts. The narcissist has qualities like little self-identity, poor emotion regulation, a feeling of superiority. They can't tolerate other people's opinions. They have a sense of entitlement, and they have a complete disregard for everybody else's needs. They have an insatiable demand for positive attention and the approval of others. Borderlines, on the other hand, are terrified of abandonment, or being alone. They will try and keep you close no matter how, by begging, pleading, holding on to you. They pick fights to keep you around. Their self-identity is very unstable, so they need someone else to make them feel whole. They shift back and forth between self-love and self-hate. They have very intense, short relationships that usually explode. And they often struggle with paranoia regarding what other people are thinking about them.
So I think about a common denominator for both of those as being just kind of this control factor and control issue. And how that, really, I mean, I know how it kind of played out on my side, and I assume it's similar maybe to another extreme for your side, but for you. But when narcissists or borderlines, not again bad actors as a whole, are in this, it's all about self, right? It has nothing to do about the other, and then oftentimes those children or any children involved are just kind of that collateral damage.
Exactly. They have no regard for anybody else, essentially, and it's about winning at all costs, no matter who, as you said, who the collateral damage is. Kids for a narcissist, at least, are trophies. They're an extension of the narcissist. So they don't see them as individuals, little children. So there's no attention paid to what their feelings may be about any of this. Borderlines will fight you tooth and nail for the kids, claiming that, they tend to do a lot of parental alienation, trying to get the kids on their side. With both of these people, it is an egregious process to go through divorce, and you will come out worse for wear, but you will also have the ability to recreate your life.
So real quickly, you mentioned parental alienation, and that's a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. And so, certainly that's not just borderlines, but obviously narcissists are very, very bad alienators as well. And
well, what they seem to do, happened in my case too, is that they badmouth the other parent, and they lie about the other parent, and they take a little speck of truth and they blow it up into a big lie. So there's always a kernel of truth. So it's sometimes hard to tease apart. But yeah, the children are right in the middle. I mean, in my case, I was removed from the house based upon, 10 pages of lies. And when my children were at camp, they came home from camp, and the judge put them back in the home versus putting them back with mom. So you can't even count sometimes on the judges, the lawyers, to understand any of this. And that's scary.
Well, I do think that, the courts are getting a better, or, at least, I don't know, I find a lot of lip service in the courts system these days. And I do think in a lot of cases, it's kind of a crapshoot. When you go to court, it's kind of a crapshoot how the outcomes will be, how the stories will work, what the outcomes are. Right. And it is, it's just, it's an equal opportunity place to get screwed. And it is, and so I do, so while I think there's a lot of sexism in the space, and there's a lot of stereotyping in the space, and I do think, more often than not, men, the gender stereotyping of moms or the better parent, or traditionally the more nurturing parent, that stereotype still kind of plays. So, fathers oftentimes, 80% of the time, women, when it's contested, have primary custody and that sort of thing. So, but at the end of the day, it's still bad actors are one or both, man or woman, lawyer or litigant. And when one comes to play, whether it's being a narcissist or a borderline or just a selfish individual, there's all hell to pay. And
Yeah, I think, what I noticed, at least in New York here, is that the courts are so backed up. And my belief is that in part there are borderlines and narcissists and other people with personality disorders or other mental illnesses, and judges and lawyers, they're not aware. My case went on and on and on because narcissists can be very charming and they can fool people quite easily. So,
And it means and they're getting people to represent them who,
they can manipulate.
yeah, you got a lawyer who's on one side of that, can become that zealot for that narcissistic individual. And then again, I find in today's courts, they blame both. So if you're in a high conflict case, the courts in their uneducated way are trying to, kind of split the baby. So they're blaming both of you for being there. I do hope that it is that, again, as we're starting to bubble up the whole conversation of narcissists, borderlines and everything else, that that in educating our judiciary, in educating some more of the professionals that are kind of dealing in that we are starting to shine a light on the core of the problem, that the system is built to, the idea was to protect the common good.
Right.
But because of its design, lack of compliance, lack of all this other stuff, it really enables those bad actors and really kind of empowers those bad actors to kind of litigiously abuse the other.
Yeah, and they will bring you into court for all sorts of trumped up reasons. They just want to keep it going so that, either you run out of money, you run out of patience, or you, I don't want to say lose your mind, but that you are, emotionally debilitated and you just say, take it all. I can't do this anymore. That's what they hope for. Yeah. By being so difficult that you'll just give up. You'll give them the kids, you'll give them the money, you'll give them the house, whatever it may be. And it takes a lot of sense of self to really understand what you're up against and how to handle them. Not easy.
Divorce doesn't have to be bad, So
No.
It gets bad when there is a narcissist or borderline involved,
right?
And and bad is an understatement, and it can be, again, devastating financially and emotionally, and then sometimes tragically, because people take their lives or take the lives of others.
Yeah.
In these extreme cases, which again happens more often than not than we know.
I just wanted to say one thing. They say that getting divorced is number one of the most difficult life experiences. Number one. Now, not everybody gets divorced, but that says a lot, that it's, more traumatic and more difficult.
But the reality is that we have people that figure it out easily enough every day, even when they're less than amicable. People can be smart about that, be mature about this, be selfless enough to be able to kind of reach, find that common ground to reach a more peaceful, positive future.
I'll share this. I have been married twice or divorced twice. My first husband and I did mediation. It wasn't easy, but we did it. It's just uncomfortable, emotionally uncomfortable, but we did it. And, you can't get blood from a stone. So there's only so much money to go around or what have you. But because it was relatively amicable, we today, 20 something years later, are very close. We're very good friends. Our daughter is amazing because she had two parents whose goal was to get her to where she needs to be. So I've done it the easy way and the really, really toxic hard way. And I can tell you there is no reason to do it the difficult way.
But it happens.
But it happens because you're not in control of the other person, particularly if they're suffering from a personality disorder.
So, all right. So let's change the direction just a little bit here. So, all right. So you got a couple. You got a person. They know they're about to. They want a divorce. They may or may not have discussed it with the other. They recognize that other has got problems, and they certainly recognize that they're going to be into it for a difficult time. They may think that they're a narcissist. They might not be thinking that they're a borderline. But so what would you tell somebody who just knows that they're going to hit that difficult divorce and they're just in that early stage of thinking about it? What are you counseling that person to do?
The single most important thing to do is to, first of all, say nothing. You want to do reconnaissance. You want to get all the paperwork that you can, bank accounts, properties owned, anything that you have easy access to now that you won't have later on. You want to get all of that.
You start making your list of assets and accounts.
Right. The best thing to do is to be organized. Number one, whether and that's where SplitSmart comes in, because, being organized, whether it's divorce or life, you're just going to be ahead of the game, So I tell people, get all that paperwork, open up a separate bank account, get yourself a separate credit card, because once the partner knows this is happening, accounts get closed, money gets funneled, all sorts of shenanigans start to happen. The other thing also is that you must assemble a team to help you who are well aware of what a personality disorder is and how it presents in a court and what they're up against. Because when I was getting divorced years ago, there were no divorce coaches. There were no financial people who understood this piece. Barely any lawyer understood. My lawyers didn't know that he was a narcissist. They just thought he was, out of his mind and crazy, but he was, malicious. So you want to have a really good team behind you, one that, believes what you're saying, because some of the stuff that happens is so egregious. People think that couldn't be, but it is.
And again, it's so funny because, well, not funny, but it is. Even post, what's going on, you telling others what's going on. People can't understand that unless they've gone through it themselves.
No, everybody thinks that, either they have the court in their pocket or they know somebody, because it's unheard of.
Again, I do think it's kind of the whole system is admittedly very adversarial. It's a crapshoot for what the outcomes are. It's a crapshoot depending on who you hire and what their relationship may or may not be with the judge and the other people that kind of get involved. And so with that said, I just want to go back and reiterate that one point of just organization, because it is kind of the core of SplitSmart. Right. Part of being split and informed and split and smart is so the first thing, and it's easy, just start to make your list of assets and debts.
Yes.
And so list those out. Even if you got some blank line items, you got to start making that list and then starting to collect the documents, the supporting documents for those assets and accounts. So with that said, we need to take a quick break here real quick again. So again, this is Carl Roberts. I am the host of Split Informed and SplitSmart. And I'm excited to be here with Susan Pava, psychotherapist, not pathologist. Sorry about that, Susan.
It's okay.
We're having a great conversation about divorcing narcissists and borderlines. We're going to take about a 60 to 90 second break here on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and look forward for us to hear from our sponsors. Thank you. Stay right there. Okay, well, welcome back. My name again is Carl Roberts. I'm CEO and founder of SplitSmart, and this is our first show on Split Informed and SplitSmart. We are joined today with our guest Susan Pava, psychotherapist out of White Plains, New York, and we're talking about divorcing narcissists and borderlines. So, Susan, just kind of we were wrapping up that first section again about some of the primary, the first recommendations that you want, the 1 and 2, for those people who are about to start the process.
The key is to assemble all your documents and paperwork long before you make it known that you're going to get a divorce. And that involves being organized, which is essential, especially if you don't want to pay a tremendous amount of money to a lawyer to do it. It's better you can do all this stuff beforehand, because letting a lawyer do it costs you a lot of money.
We're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
It's obscene. It is absolutely obscene. So why not get a jump start on doing your net worth statement and your assets and, figuring out your cost of living? All those things are going to come into play. So while things are calm, before, the partner explodes because you're divorcing them, best to get ahead of the curve.
So, okay, so now it comes time, for divorce. I mean, so again, I know I'm going to head into a difficult arena. And we had a little discussion about this before. Should I file first? Should the other file? Just wait for the other to file? May they ever? What should I be expecting? What should I be thinking? What should I be doing?
It's interesting. The thing with a narcissist is they probably won't file first because they've got their cake and are eating it too. They have you there. You are doing everything to run the house, take care of the kids, and they're off doing whatever they do, having multiple affairs. So they don't want to upset the apple cart. So usually it's contingent upon the person who is not the one with the personality disorder. However, in my experience, I can say that I was filing first, but when my ex got word, he quickly got in under the wire so he could file first. And at that time in New York, it wasn't a no-fault state. So it made a difference. I suspect that you're going to be the one to file, and that's just fine. But just know that once they are served with papers, things are going to get potentially ugly, and you have to, guard yourself physically, emotionally, mentally. Make sure your kids are grounded. this is not for the faint of heart. You can get through it. It's just not going to be easy.
So, I mean, as people think about this, again, I come back to organization. Again, with organization, you already got your list or a building list of your assets and financials. You're starting to have that grip. The more grip that you have on your financial situation, the more in control you will be about how the process unfolds. When the other kind of comes on to the stage, you already got that list. You kind of set the stage, and so it's very important to kind of get organized in advance.
I think what your company does is it gives us the building blocks to start putting the divorce together and to be able to do it in a calm way, possibly without the spouse knowing. But if you get to the point where you are in the divorce and you are not prepared, things will take 10 times as long. They'll be much more difficult. And narcissists are great at gaslighting. They're great at lying with such fervor that people believe them. So you must have everything organized if you want to stay grounded.
So obviously we're not sugarcoating any of this. I mean, divorcing a narcissist or borderline is pure hell.
Yes.
And we can take an otherwise $5,000 divorce and it can be $500,000.
Absolutely.
We can take again, emotionally stable family to be, completely, destroyed in different ways. I mean, and the harm to the kids is sometimes irreparable.
Yes.
And leaves lasting scars. I mean, where people, again, they think they're all hell bent on doing this for themselves. And it just galls me when they don't think about the damage that they're doing to the children. That they're trying to separate a good, loving parent from their children, and it's the whole parental alienation is just. I don't know.
You know what, Carl? It doesn't get any more egregious than that. It
doesn't, and again, it's just for the selfish, narcissistic, borderline. Call for word.
An important thing that everybody must keep in the back of their mind is that you will not win. This isn't about winning and losing. This is about getting out of a bad situation and getting your freedom back. So if you have any notion of, I'm going to get back at them, give it up right now, because you will never, ever upset get back at get revenge over a narcissist. The way they punish themselves in their own mind, the thoughts that they have, the beliefs about who they are, they're so self-loathing at their very core that, to me, that's punishment enough. I couldn't possibly punish somebody any more than living in that head that they're living in. So at the end of the day, just remind yourself, you know what? I'm healthy. I'm a little worse for wear, and this has been horrible, but I got through it, and now I have my freedom, and now I have my life.
So we touched on something which I call kind of seeking emotional justice. That's that.
Right.
Then I won't go there for right now because we only got so much time. But how can people going through this best help themselves, best protect themselves? What do they need? What do they need to be doing?
Very important. You need to set boundaries. Somebody with a personality disorder is not used to boundaries. And when you all of a sudden set them, they immediately think something's changed, or they know something's changed. So that's a good thing, because now they realize you're not going to be as pliable. The single most important thing, though, is being mindful, practicing mindfulness. Now, everybody, when you say mindfulness, they say, oh, it's meditation. I can't meditate. Well, mindfulness is not meditation. Meditation is mindfulness. It comes under that umbrella. Mindfulness is simply being in the here and now as it is, accepting it, it's the facts. What do you see? No interpretations, no judgments. It takes you out of your head, out of your thoughts, and it grounds you in the present. That way, you're not, emotionally dysregulated, so that you can make, hard decisions that have bearing for the rest of your life. If you're really emotional, those decisions are not going to be well thought out. So by practicing mindfulness, which is very simply, you can do it little 1-minute sessions, mini mindfulness, just stop what you're doing, observe around you, notice what's going on internally. Do I feel anxious? Am I sweaty? Is my heart pounding? And externally, what's going on around me? What do I see? Because the borderline and the narcissist count on you being, very dysregulated. And because they will throw things at you just in order to confuse you. If you set those boundaries and you practice mindfulness, you're going to be okay.
So, and again, I don't mean to be so self-serving here from the standpoint again. So, I mean, when I'm talking to people, and much what I promote is that, the 3 essential components for, having a good divorce, or kind of being doing to others as you would have them do unto you. Control your emotions, and to get organized. And that get organized part of it kind of, again, helps reinforce both the do unto others as well as keeping yourself in control of your emotions. Again, just by knowing what your assets are and having that list of assets, then you start to realize, okay, well, that's, again, you're making more informed decisions as opposed to emotional decisions. And then you can better see, right or left, what's more a practical approach to go for. And when it comes to the children, again, it's just, if your goal is not for a peaceful, co-parenting future where the children can thrive in the love and support of both parents, I mean, you're in this for the wrong reasons. Right. But the idea is that, again, the more that we can kind of, in a mindful way, get our thoughts down about what we want from a parenting plan, what we want from the schedules, what we want from a support standpoint. And again, keep that all focused on the child well-being. And part of that, so I'm a big advocate about 50-50 parenting, but, you still have very loving families that 50-50 is not practical for.
Right.
And so, so disconnect the financial incentives of having, of counting overnights, and figure out those parenting plans and schedules that work best for both the parents and the children. Because the most important thing of any parenting plan and schedule is that, is the lack of conflict.
Exactly. And, you're providing this fabulous service to make people organized, to reduce the stress and the anxiety in that area. Why on earth wouldn't somebody use that? Because once you're organized, you can put that away and you can deal with the emotional aspect of it, because that's what's so debilitating. And you want to have all your paperwork done before you get into that emotional head, so that you're thinking, especially the reason to do it beforehand is you don't have your adversary on top of you. So you can take your time. You can think about what's fair, what's right, those things. So why wouldn't somebody want to be organized? Divorce is hard enough in its entirety. If you can remove one difficult piece of it by being organized, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think
deal with the emotion, which I will remind you doesn't go away just because you're divorced. You need to process it, because it's very much a loss, like a death of somebody.
Yeah, certainly a lot of the professionals, be it mediators or certainly therapists, coaches, and even though the divorce lawyers who are more in the alternative dispute resolution approach, one of their chief counsels is separate the emotions from the process. The more you can separate your emotions, the better off everybody's going to be.
And that's why I have people practice the mindfulness on top of not engaging. Once you take the bait and you engage because they're saying something that's completely wrong or egregious and you can't tolerate it, best to take a step back and say, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. I'm not going to be part of this, because you know what? The personality disordered person has is a pro at this manipulation and at the gaslighting. You are never going to win that way. So why bother?
And so much of it, and so that so in that, and you both got lawyers, and there's all these rules around discovery and disclosures in that, but experience and from everybody else telling you, the cost of a litigated divorce, well over half that expense is in the whole disclosure and discovery gamesmanship. Everybody's lying about money. Everybody's trying to paint the other person as a bad guy.
Hiding things, And
so when there's that whole gamesmanship of the discovery and disclosure, I've asked for something, 3 times. You say you gave it to me 4 times, but not one of those was a legitimate document or legible or even relevant. And so it's just a game. And then that, part of, what SplitSmart's all about is disabling that game. And so by just being able to kind of manage the disclosure and discovery process. So when you get the lawyers, and you got there's a lot of very fine lawyers who are representing the clients on the receiving end of a narcissist or a borderline. And even those, because that the other side is a bad actor, their bills are going to spiral up. And then quite oftentimes those lawyers still aren't able to get paid because they bankrupted their client.
Right.
And, so anyway, it kind of goes in different things, but we kind of need to start kind of wrapping it up a little bit, Susan. So what is it that you want our audience to know, whether they're, at the beginning of the process and just thinking about it, or in the middle of it? Go.
No, first and foremost, be organized, practice mindfulness to be grounded so you can make proper decisions, that you don't let your emotions run away with you. Remind yourself over and over again, there is no winning with a narcissist. It's not about that. It's about, what's in the best interest of your children and getting out with some semblance of being intact. It's very important. I forgot to mention this point. Write everything down. Keep notes, keep emails, keep texts, because gaslighting and a lot of lying go on. And so you get confused and you have nothing to back it up when you're showing your lawyer. So you want to prove that what you've been going through is real. So you want to keep all that. So that and the mindfulness piece and the not engaging. I tell my clients, remember, this is the beginning, not the end. This is the beginning of your new life moving forward. And, it's how do you make lemons out of lemonade? How do you make lemonade out of lemons? That's what I did. It was just, okay, I got through this. Now what can I do to help others? Well, maybe it's not doing exactly what I did, but just know you have a whole life out there waiting for you to grab hold to be whoever you want to be. Just get through the divorce with the least amount of anguish and game playing as possible.
Well, very good. Well, Susan, how do people reach you?
They can reach out to me by email, Susan, SUSAN, at Susan M. Pava, SUSAN, MPAVA.com. My website is susanmpava.com, and the phone number is area code 914-719-6604.
Well, very good, very good. Well, Susan, this has been great, and thank you so much for being my first guest on my first show. This is hopefully people that are listening have picked up some pearls of wisdom of, about how to best help and protect themselves in going through this process. So I am Carl Roberts. I'm the CEO and founder of SplitSmart. That's SplitSmart. SplitSmart.com, and SplitSmart is a online divorce app. It's all about organization, whether just kind of organizing your financials, on your own to get started with, or once you kind of pull that trigger and starting the process and have engaged with the other to kind of manage the disclosures going back and forth. But there's also the kid side of it, just about trying to create the perfect parenting plans for your family and really allowing for both parents to be able to support their child without all the traditional conflict. So I can be reached at C Roberts, CROBERTS at SplitSmart.com, SplitSmart.com, and also by phone at 303-810-5279. Susan, this has been great. Thank you again. Please, for our audience, please check in for our next second episode of Split Informed and Split Smart show with me with Carl Roberts as your host. It's live every 2 weeks on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern. On the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Susan. And
thank you for having me.
Be well.